Welcome to the Your Local Studio podcast, the resource for business leaders and entrepreneurs providing advice on marketing, lead generation, and online video.
Hey, I'm Alex with Your Local Studio. Today I have two pretty cool folks connected via Google Hangout who we'll be chatting with. Allison Rode, an extremely experienced videographer, and Joe Daly, a top-notch video producer. Well, thanks so much for joining me, guys. I'm really excited to get into this conversation on what not to do when making a video. Allison, why don't you jump in first?
Yeah, so I'm focusing on production the day of shooting, and I guess my biggest overall take when I sat down thinking about this was the biggest mistake anybody can make through the entire process of making a film is to assume. Assume that your client knows what you're talking about, or to assume that your coworkers and the people you're working with are on the same page. So that was going to be my first point to start off, that preparation is key. Never assume that you are ready. Make sure everybody's on the same page, that your crew understands the type of shoot you're doing, how you're going to be doing it, so that you can jump in, get right to work. That the client understands what everyone's going to be doing, what's important, the moving pieces, and that way they don't get there and go, "What are you doing? This is not what I thought we were doing." So making sure everybody is on the same page, that you're communicating well, and I think we can all agree that at any point in the project, communication is going to be key, and that's definitely important on the day of production.
Over communication doesn't hurt.
Never. Never. Always ask questions. Never be afraid to ask questions of your crew, the client. It's better that you are all on the same page, especially the day of, than to not understand what's going on.
Great. Love it. Thanks, Allison. Joe, what are your thoughts?
Well, as a producer, I'm kind of focusing on preparation for the day of your shoot. So one of the things I think you should definitely not do is show up unprepared. And that's, I mean, there's, the main thing I can think of for that is showing up and not having read over your script and to the point where you're comfortable with it. And even though lots of times shoots I do will using a teleprompter, you still have to be comfortable with your content, because you really, the prompter should be there to help you catch up with your words, but it should be there more for like the main idea of what you're talking about. So definitely being familiar with their script, also showing up, being familiar with script will help you get rid of some butterflies. If you're the actual presenter, then you will, it'll be a lot easier. Once you get comfortable with your content, you'll stop thinking maybe about the camera in front of you, and you know you're confident with that content, and you can just go forward. And another big thing with showing up prepared is make sure you sleep enough the night before your shoot.
Yes.
I've had some clients who are big time, like professional speakers, and they show up and you can tell something's just off with them, and they'll be like, "Oh, I was up reviewing my content till 4 or 5 in the morning. And the shoot's at 9 a.m. Well, you're gonna have a bad time."
That is a great point of being able to be prepared and going over the script. I've had many experiences where someone's come in and they're like, "Yeah, no, I got it. I'll wing it. It's fine. I haven't really looked over it, but I'll be good." That doesn't usually work out very well.
No, that's not going to work so well.
Great points. What I want to talk then on is probably very similar to that. Is first off is if you feel maybe you're camera shy. I've had experiences where people maybe they don't realize it, but they are camera shy. It's not the best to make a video to look directly into the camera if you're freaked out. Now, there's ways I think you can prepare yourself and try to maybe over practice. But in those cases, switching to an interview style, and I bet both of you guys can speak to that same point, looking just slightly off and being able to then look into someone else's eyes can really help. Now, if you have practice, I think you can get over that, looking into the camera using a teleprompter, no problem. But for those that don't plan on being in the camera very often, interview style is a good idea.
Yeah, it definitely is, because then you feel more like you're just having a conversation, like, with a friend or, a colleague or something, instead of actually like, "Oh no, I'm talking into this camera. Everybody's watching me," kind of feeling.
Yeah, great. Allison, what are your next thoughts?
So yeah, kind of going along the same lines of preparation. Again, I think we can all agree that you don't make any assumptions that everybody is completely ready if you're not talking or communicating. And being prepared is key, even the day of the shoot. So being prepared for me is the night before, go through all of your gear. Make sure everything works. Make sure all of your batteries are charged and that everything is packed and organized, ready to go. There is nothing worse than getting to a shoot and realizing I don't have this and I need it, or the batteries aren't charged and I'm nowhere near a power supply. So always bring extension cords. Always bring a power strip, multiple power strips, multiple power cords and extension cords. But a perfect example, I just got back into the country from a shoot in November, and I charged everything before I flew on the plane. Made sure that I was all ready to go to hit the ground running as soon as I landed. Got there and realized that I guess the process of screening all of my gear made the batteries lose their charge. So none of my checked batteries had any power. Luckily, I had a few that I carried on with me, so it didn't have that problem. But at that point, I was so grateful that even going to another country, I had brought power cords and extension cords and a power adapter so that I didn't have to worry about, oh, my batteries are dead, what am I going to do? So it's little things like that that you know your gear, you have backups, and that you make sure it's all ready to go so you don't have any problems that day.
Well, brilliant points. And we're in such a world where all our technology power is so important. So great points. Both battery, extension cords, extension bars, they definitely are a good thing to have. Love it.
Yeah, I could say I had a shoot with Allison a couple months ago, and anything we could think of that we needed, she's like, "Oh, I got that in my bag. Oh, let me just go run out to my car and get that. Oh, I have that."
I have that huge box. That box goes with me to any shoot, and
Yeah.
I always have extension cords, power strips. I have clips in case you need to pull something back, a drape, a curtain, hang something up. It's just a box of random stuff so that you always have everything you need for any scenario.
Awesome. Great points. Thanks, Allison. Joe, what's your next thought?
So my next thought is, in preparation for your shoot and the day of, is just don't be too in love with your own ideas. I think on every team, you need to have somebody that's the final, like, this is what we're going to do and this is how we're going to do it. But I found the best videos, whether they be a corporate video or even like a movie, like a drama or something, to get input from the people you're around. There's stuff you're not going to think of necessarily, unless maybe you're Steven Spielberg, where somebody else that's standing there that has a different view on it can help you with. Like, for example, if I'm working with a client and I'm concentrating on the words they're saying, I'm trying to get a big general picture. But if they're messing up content, I'm going to start concentrating on the content. Where if I'm working with a camera person, like Allison, for example, kind of going to be looking how the shot's composed. I need to lean on her to make sure that we're getting the best possible product we can get. And that also in the preparation stages when you're writing your script or your list of questions, like talk to your coworkers, see if the words you're using make sense. Maybe talk to somebody that's not in your profession that might be more in the audience you're going for that might not be familiar with your topic. Talk to them and just make sure that the words you're using are words that a common person that's not in that that doesn't work with that subject all the time can understand.
Brilliant. And actually my next thought ties in perfectly with that. Know your audience. So be able to use their language and the style, know what they're looking for. Right in this idea of, you got to reach out to those around you and understand, okay, what do they want to hear? Because I've seen so many videos where if they don't even know who they're speaking to, they can use such, words that they'll not even connect with. If your audience is a younger generation, you got to use, certain terminology and words that they will be able to say, okay, yeah, I get what you're saying. Whereas if you're going for a different demographic, then you'll completely lose them. So know who your audience is. I think that is a good point, tying right into yours.
Yeah. No, knowing your audience, that should be like one of the first things when you're creating a script or anything is you got to know the audience and then go from there to make sure it's all geared towards that audience you're going for. I agree with you.
Allison, what's your next thought?
Yeah, well, before I get to my next point to kind of play off what you guys are saying about relying on your coworkers and know your audience, things like that, I find that when I do photography or shooting a wedding, things like that, and you have a second shooter, it's the same aspect where you're both running around trying to capture different things, and when you put everything together, it's amazing to see what different perspectives you have of an event. So that's a great point, Joe, that you rely on who you're working with to come up with different ideas, because everybody has a different perspective, whether you're making a movie in news or even doing photography. So completely agree with that.
Yeah.
So my next do not do is kind of a little thing that makes a huge difference. And it's one of my biggest pet peeves. Do not assume that you can hold a camera steady with your hands. It absolutely drives me crazy to see somebody in a professional setting trying to hand hold a camera. Now, in certain situations, it's completely fine. You see that a lot with news. You don't always have time to set up a tripod when you have breaking news and you're trying to get that shot. You might also be going for that kind of shaky, bumping around look. But 9 times out of 10 in a professional setting, when you are trying to make a professional-looking product, there's nothing worse than seeing the camera moving all over the place or just slightly off angle. So if nothing else, just put the camera on a tripod. Always put it on a tripod. You will never go wrong putting the camera on a tripod.
What are you talking about? Even just moving like this around is a bad idea?
It's funny you hold up your iPhone, Alex, because that's exactly what I'm thinking. Is somebody that's holding up their iPhone trying to shoot something. Because you know what, your iPhone camera is pretty awesome, and you can buy a tripod adapter for your iPhone even. You know, it'll make it look that much more professional if it's just mounted on the tripod.
Awesome. Thank you, Allison. Great idea. Yeah. Joe, what about you?
All right, well, another thing not to do if you're going to be the person actually doing the presenting is don't be too hard on yourself. Everybody, you know, a lot of these, it's really a cool time right now. Now it's affordable to make a video. You know, if you have a really small business or something like that, well, you might not be the most comfortable with being on camera because, you know, a company like yours 20 years ago probably didn't have the opportunity to make a video for their website and make it all affordable. And it's also very necessary now to have a video, I think, to represent your company, but that's a different thing. Anyway, so just don't be too hard on yourself, because I know the kind of videos I shoot with corporations, I have one client's Fortune 500 company, and I get a lot of people that are professional speakers, and they went to school for it and everything. But a lot of the internal videos for different levels, these guys aren't used to being in front of cameras. And I had this one gentleman who just psyched himself out completely. Like he was fine, and having a normal conversation with him, just like talking to any other normal guy. And when the camera went on, he just freaked out, and he just couldn't get it done. So just don't be hard on yourself. It's not live television. The magic of editing. You hear all these. I mean, all these movies you go out and watch. Some of those scenes took them days to shoot because they needed to take it, and these are professional actors. So don't be so hard on yourself if you can't get something done in the first 1-5 takes, you know, because we can cut it together and we can make you look like a star.
The magic is in the editing.
That's right. That's right.
I think the average number of takes I usually see is about 7 to 8. So when people are like, "What? Oh, I messed up on the first try," don't worry, it's okay. Don't try to get it always right in the first shot.
Right, but we've also, I mean, Alex, you and I worked on videos where it's gone past 7 takes, and we still get really good stuff. Like the people are hard on themselves. They get to that 5th take or something, and they think they're like so far behind the curve. They're like, "Oh, I don't know what I'm doing." they just need to relax, because, you know, eventually you can get to that point, even if it takes 15 takes. Well, that's fine. You're going to start to get more comfortable. Just don't be too hard on yourself.
That is a great one. Just take a chill pill. Love it. My last thought I wanted to share was what not to do when making a video is don't think about what not to do. See, I actually think of the positives. So trying to turn a negative is now difficult. Careful of not knowing where you're going to post your video, of where it's going to be hosted, and what's the medium you're going to use. Because if you're going to put something on YouTube, and again, it probably comes back to my second point, knowing your audience, you're not going to want to create a 30 to 60 minute long spiel. People's attention span, depending on your medium of what you're using, you may need it long or short. So when you're creating your videos, I think it's you got to be very careful of already knowing, okay, what's my end product? Where is it going to go? How are they going to consume it? I mean, educational videos, longer forms of content, that makes sense because people need to be able to sit down and consume it. But if it's promotional and if it's just informational, you got to keep it, I think, tiny little tidbits. You guys agree?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, really, a way to do that is just think to yourself, like I know when I'm sitting on my phone waiting for my oil to be changed or something, and a video pops up on Facebook, like, I'll watch the first 30 seconds, and then my mind's already wandering to something else. So, yeah, just think about how you yourself would, how much time will you invest each video, and you can kind of figure out what your audience is going to be like also.
So someone's already planning then to share their content with their Facebook feed or their fan base on there. Your point right there. I mean, 30 seconds, that's probably what you have before they keep on scrolling. Because, I mean, I think Facebook is, I saw an article recently, is trying to take on YouTube, being sort of the next big video engine. And that's mainly because of their autoplay feature. When people are scrolling through the feed, videos autoplay. But your point is, you have only like 10 seconds before someone's going to keep on scrolling. So keep shorter content is probably so important. Yeah. Any other last thoughts you guys have on what not to do when making a video?
Well, I'm going to finish with a positive thing.
Positive. I like positive.
Creative. Have fun.
Fun. That is so true. I mean, if you're going to just go through like, oh crap, I got to make a video, it's probably not going to turn out that well.
Yeah, I got to agree with Allison's last point. We've worked with a bunch of different kinds of people, and for the most part, film crews are fun people to work with. And for the most part, the clients we work with are pretty fun. So hopefully you just enjoy yourself. Have fun.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks so much, guys. I appreciate your sharing your thoughts and your insight of being awesome video people and what not to do when making a video.
Thanks.
Thank you.
That's it for this edition of the Your Local Studio Video Podcast. Please continue the conversation online. You can search for us on Twitter at Your Local Studio and tweet with us. Love to hear your thoughts and comments. Until next time.